Today, I want to talk about some common fears that a lot of small business owners face when running their small business or starting out. Hello, my name is Amanda, and I am the owner of Willow and Pip. I make goat's milk soaps and coconut apricot wax candles from my home in Southampton, Ontario, Canada. And I run my business on the side, meaning I have a full time permanent job outside of my small business. One of the common fears that people have articulated to me, as well as I have faced directly, is attending craft fairs or vendor markets. The reason I had so much built up anxiety about this really was around the fact that I was worried someone I knew would recognize me or think something negatively about me, as it wasn't well known at the time. Obviously, you have to start somewhere, that I was running this small business. I had a lot of negative self talk about what that person might think, whether it be in confidence in whether my business would be successful or the type of business I was running, or you name it. I am from a small community and a lot of people know a lot of people. And I just, had this really odd fear that, there'd be negative talk about me or my business. I am a very private person, believe it or not. And this just seemed to be something that was really hard for me to comprehend at the start. My recommendations for getting, through this, as you do really have to get yourself out there through these in-person events, especially when you're starting out. Because, as you know, just putting your products out on Etsy or your website is not enough. It's not going to drive enough business for you to be successful. Is it to start small and to start local. So I started at a local, it was one town over in Owen Sound, a farmer's market there. It wasn't the busiest market, but it was a consistent market. It was open every Saturday morning. It was only for half day. And it allowed me to get the kinks and the uncomfortable jitters out of my system in relation to putting my face out there, talking to people, seeing acquaintances, answering questions, just getting, ripping the band-aid off and becoming accustomed to people in my community seeing me, recognizing me, and knowing that I run the business that I run. The second tip that really helped me, and I know it might not be a viable option for everybody, is partnering up and having somebody go with you, especially for the first, if not, first few market events. I was able to have my husband attend with me, and he still often does, my first few markets, which just gave me that extra person the confidence I needed. He could step in if I was stumbling over words. If I needed help, I could quickly ask him, to help me with something. I actually often, believe it or not, had a hard time thinking on my feet if a customer was at my checkout and I was making change for them, and being able to answer questions as often while they're waiting for you to ring them through. They'll start asking questions about your product, your ingredient line, and I would often find that I would lose track of my addition subtraction to give them the correct amount of change. And so I was able to kind of let him check over my shoulder, or sometimes just do the checkout process directly for me, so that I could sort of interact in a focused manner with the customers. For everybody, it'll look like something different, but just having that second person available gave me, and still does give me, the confidence boost that I need, and just the extra helping hand. Lastly, I think along the thing that has really helped me along the way on, successful vendor markets and getting over some of the fears of being in person, is just good organization and preparation. You certainly don't want to be running out of change or products. And so printing off a prep checklist, you can Google them, vendor craft fair prep checklist, and standardizing a kit, and so that you take with you every single time you go to the markets, really helps ensure that you will have any backup stationery you might need, backup products. Just if anything goes wrong within reason, you have the equipment on hand to be able to deal with it. And knowing that you've prepped and organized in advance will A, ensure you get a good night's sleep before the market, and B, just ensure that if something does come up unexpected during your market, you can deal with it within reason. And it just reduces the anxiety around, any of the additional issues that you're working through having your face out there and interacting with people directly. The second fear that I encountered with starting and progressing my business was putting my face out there on social media. I started social media on Instagram and TikTok, and I would make little short clips on me making my products, but the clips were focused on my hands and on my work surface. So I would show, for example, a video clip of me making soap and me mixing the soap batter, pouring it into molds. But my initial clips were not at all of my face and were not of my voice. And I would recommend, if you are uncomfortable with putting your face out there, to start this way. I was able to, build a platform, build a foundation, and a bit of a following on Instagram um, through just this method alone. It showed my customers of me making my products. It showed them the types of ingredients I made and the process behind the scenes, which I've gotten really good feedback on. And eventually I became more comfortable and started to put my face, my voice in my Instagram clips. And and that really came with the comfort of me after doing some in-person vendor markets. And I also noticed that through these clips, I had a lot more engagement. I had a lot more comments and likes. And that encouraged me to keep going with occasionally putting my face out there on Instagram and these social media platforms. It's not something I do all the time because I still do like showing my behind the scenes process, but it's something that through the data does show gives you more interest and engagement. And so I would encourage you to build up in the fashion that I've described. Another fear I had, again, in relation to sort of fear number one about showing my face at vendor and craft shows, was what my friends and family, my inner circle, would think of me. And I don't know why I had this fear because I have a wonderful inner circle. However, I did. And it was everything from, what are these people going to think of me? Are they going to think this is a fly by night, passion? I jokingly refer to my small business as my midlife crisis as a bit of a defense mechanism. But what I've learned is they really don't care. With love, they don't care. So my friends and family really just want me to be happy and successful. And honestly, they have their own lives and they're just too busy being them, doing them, to have any type of negative thoughts about, my business at all. It's all just positivity and good vibes, and they just want to see me living my life the way that I want to live my life. And honestly, it's too short anyway. It took me just time to get through that fear. There was nothing specifically that I can recommend. It all comes organically over time through these baby steps of putting yourself out there, becoming more known in your community and in amongst your inner circle of friends and family. And you just become more used to having, your face connected to your business. And it just gets easier over time. The other thing that I would recommend is trying to frame your mind and flip roles. So if you were to think of a friend or family member that starts their own business, and whether or not you would have any negative types of thoughts towards that. And for me, the answer was absolutely not. It would be nothing but encouragement and love and positivity. And so if you can try to sort of put yourself in the other person's shoes on where they would be coming from, I think it also quickly helps dispel that fear of what they might be thinking about you in relation to would it be anything negative? And the answer is no. One fear I had when I first started getting into soap and candles was my fear of getting bored with my business. I am a fairly hyper person, an ADHD type personality. I like to create, and with that comes a whole world of options of making new recipes, making new products. One thing that is really important in this business is solidifying your product line. Now, you don't want to rush into that. You want to make sure that you have done enough testing and worked through enough recipes that you are confident with what you're putting out there. But once you do have a solid product line, let's say a certain amount of soaps, a certain amount of candles, a certain amount of bath bombs, that becomes a foundation of your product offering, and you're not flip flopping and creating every other week a bunch of new product lines. And the reason you don't want to be doing that is the cost of goods for soap and candle making is so expensive that if you were choosing different candle waxes or different formulations for your soap multiple times throughout the course of running your business, it would really be a lot more economically to stock all of that inventory, and there would be a lot of wastage and also inefficiencies in trying to bulk up or scale your product line. So although within seasonality you do probably want to introduce a couple of new products every season, you don't want to be changing fundamentally every other week something new. But because I do have this ADHD personality, this need for, wanting to be new and exciting, I was worried that over time, making the same bar of soap multiple times, a month would become something that I would get sick of. So I'm now into well over year two of running my small business. And there is enough variation in what this business offers that I have yet to be bored. What I mean by variation is by getting yourself out into the community, there's been a tremendous amount of new aspects and areas that I've become involved with that I didn't even realize were opportunities. I have become a member of my local chamber of commerce. I have donated to different vendor events. I have participated in charity raffles. Um, I have met vendors that have recommended other markets that I attend that have been very positive. I have met a whole new band of friends through attending these vendor markets and being in the small business community within my small community. And so it's just been enough variation that although the product lines are repetitive, I have really enjoyed just the growth and opportunity the business has offered, right up into including this newer YouTube channel that I'm putting on. It's grown organically. It's another opportunity. It's another art form that has become available to me just through growing my business and still being creative, but not jeopardizing my stable product line and that return on investment that I do track regularly. One fear that became more of a fear as I grew my business was fear of burnout. So this business is all consuming, I would say. There is always something that needs to be done. And I'm an organized person, I'm a list type person, but the list is never ending. And one thing that has really helped with my fear of burnout is bulking up my product line and batching in larger quantities. For example, now when I make soap, I will make 9 loaves of one kind of soap, which will last me a significantly longer period of time than when I first started out and I was making one loaf at a time. Now, when you first start out, you do have to make smaller batches and smaller quantities. Because you probably do not have the capital or the money to be purchasing the volume of raw ingredients that you need to make these bigger batches. And B, because you also want to make sure that those products sell and are successful. So I was only able to sort of bulk batch size into my second year of business when I had strong revenue, a little bit of savings in my business bank account, where I was able to purchase bigger quantities of my raw ingredients. So it will come with time, but in increasing the batches of my recipes, I have now had the ability to take a breather during the periods of time that I need rest because I know I will have the inventory I need on hand to draw from, allowing me to take, a day or two, or even perhaps, a week at a time of a bit of a breather, allowing me to rest because it's a long game. And I also recognize I have a busy family and a busy work life outside of this business that I need to preserve. I hope today's video has dispelled some of the fears that you may also be having in your small business. That's it for today. Like and follow for more.